In this video, I'm going to talk about OrgSettings tool, which is a tool within the XRM Toolbox. Now, OrgSettings tools, it allows you to set organization settings for a given environment. Now, as we all know, Dynamics CRM, we have a software as a service model whereby we can configure some settings available through the user interface provided by Microsoft. However, there are some settings which are not directly available out of the box, and we may need to use some sort of a special tool to make those changes in the backend. Now, what are these settings? Now, these are basically organizational level settings, or what we call it as an environment database settings. Now, some of the examples would be is archival enabled. Now, if you want to set up archiving, yes, you can do through the UI, but there are some settings which you cannot do through the UI. So those all settings will be available as a part of org settings tool. Now, there are some examples like enable ownership across business unit, do not auto track email, and there are 168 settings which you can configure using this tool. Now, there is an other tool as well apart from XRM Toolbox, like Org Settings Updater. Now, that allows you to configure almost 178 settings. Now, I'm going to cover that in a separate video. However, for this video, I'm going to show you how Org Settings tool work. Now, Org Settings tool, it allows you to change the value using the graphical user interface. It has an ability to copy the org settings value to a secondary environment as well. Now, this is a good feature. Now, what does this line indicates is that if you are provisioning an environment, like say example for a customer project like dev, test, and prod. And now, if you have set up a dev environment, and now say if you're setting up a stage environment, and within that stage environment, if you want to have like to like setting from your dev environment to the stage environment, then this tool will come handy. Okay, so in this tool you connect to two different environments, and then from one environment you say I want to replicate all the settings from dev environment to say stage environment, or maybe from a dev environment to test environment. So like that you can make those changes. Now, this tool is built by link d365. Now, how many settings can you configure? So as of now, I can see that there are almost 168 settings which we can configure. Now, some of the settings might look familiar to you because you might have seen those things in the Power Platform Admin Center for a specific environment. Like there is a tracking option, like hide track all option, or do not track auto track email, or uh, enable activities feature, or maybe you might find some familiar settings uh, like disable smart matching, or uh, disable nav tour. Okay, so some of the settings are already available as a part of graphical user interface provided by Power Platform Admin Center, or you can navigate to the backend advanced settings and try to make those changes from the UI. But there are still some settings which you cannot access using any of the user interface, and for that purpose you may need to make use of this tool. Now, some of the examples, if you see over here, like there is stable client max mashups, restrict IRM email items, office shell service timeout, mail app MSAL. Okay, now these are all settings which are available from this tool, and you can uh, set those particular settings. Now, not all those settings are straightforward, so you need to have some sort of a documentation defined, because most of the setting would be like kind of setting up true or false, but then for some you need to set up a flag as 1 0 or some text. Okay, so I'm going to cover this in the tool. Now, this is how the tool looks like. So once you load this tool and once you connect to an environment, it will list down all the organization settings or the database settings for that specific environment. And then from here, the good part is it will show you only the settings which is set currently uh, in a different color. If the setting is not set by you, then it will not show anything over here. However, you can go ahead and make the changes accordingly on the right hand side. So you can make those changes. Also, from a manual tab, you can take the backup copy of whatever setting was existence before you even make those changes. So that will help help it will be handy in case you make some issue in case you encounter any issue while making those changes, and maybe that might lead to database corruption as well. So this is a very critical setting, I would say. So if you know what you're doing, then only attempt this changes using this tool. Now, let's jump into the demo. So the tool name is OrgSettings. So what I'm going to do, so so let me show you this tool. So this, I have already installed this tool. So if you have not installed this tool, then go ahead, go to the tools library and type in OrgSettings, and then this tool will get loaded once you install it. Now here I am in this tool. So I've already connected to this environment Girish Dev, and that's why it is showing me connected to this environment. And there is a good note written over here. It says you should not change any setting without having a specific reason to do. Please ensure you have a backup of the current setting prior to changing them, available in the manual tab. So if you see in the manual tab, there is a setting. Okay, so if I am selecting, say, one of the settings, say background send batch size, and if I click on manual, then this is the current configuration setting. Okay, now what I can do, I can copy this. Okay, I can copy this current setting, and then I can put it in my clipboard, or maybe any other offline storage. Okay, so it's just for safety purpose. If I accidentally make any changes, then this will act as a backup. Okay, so what does this setting indicate? So there is a description over here. It says max email batch size per user for sending emails in the background. This sets the number of emails to download in one batch for the background send API. Okay, and also it will mention the version number, min and max, and what is the default value, and what kind of data type it is. Like, it's a number type. So here you can set in the value. Now the current value is set as 1. You can make it 2, 3, 5, 10, whatever as per your desired need. Now, if I go into the another setting, I can see client disable tracking for reply forward email. Now here, again, from a Microsoft description perspective, default is either 0 or 1. It disables tracking of replies and forwarded email. Now, think about it. Like, if I want to make uh, the changes, then what I can do, I can set this value. So I'm in the set tab. I can set this value to either true or false. Now, if you see in this column, it says Girish Dev Current. Okay. Now, in Girish Dev Current, if I sort this, I can see there are some items in green. Now, why this item is in green? Because I have made those changes when this environment was provisioned. Okay. So I've set the archival to true. Okay, I set the is commanding modified on enable to true. Now if you haven't made any change, then it will all show as blank. Okay, now say, take for example, if I want to turn off the archival. Now if I select this is archival enabled, it says enabling or disabling archival feature for an organization. Now if I want to disable the archival, then what I can do, I can set it to false. So if I set it to false, if you see over here, it says Girish Dev New, and it has set to false. Now, once you do that, you need to commit this. Okay, you need to commit the change. Now, before you commit, what I would advise is to take a copy of it. Okay, so you copy the current configuration. Okay, I'll just do a control C. I'll paste it somewhere. Okay, so this is like you're copying the configuration of that particular setting just for backing up purpose. Now, if I click on commit to Girish Dev, then it will warn you. It will say commit one changes to your org settings, and I'll say, okay, let's commit this. And now that setting is done. Okay. So what we have done, we have now set the archival to false. Okay. Similarly, if you have set any setting, then you can even either change it to the alternate settings. Like for disable nav tour, I can set it to uh, true. Currently it is set to false, or maybe I can even remove the value as well. Okay, so I can even remove the value of this particular setting. So let me set this. So here there is an option to remove the value, so I can remove the values. If I remove the value, watch what happens over here. Okay, so in the current and the dev new. So if I remove the value, then I say, are you sure you want to remove Girish Dev disable nav tool from Girish Dev configuration? So like this, you can play around with this particular setting. So there are like a lot of 168 settings to look into. So you have this, some of the settings I'm just going to read. It says security setting for email, tablet client max tabs, send email synchronously, and there is exported excel retention window, reassign all extended timeout. So these all settings, some of the settings you will not even find in the user interface, and that comes handy while changing the setting. And the best part is, if you highlight this particular field, then you can even get the data type as well. Now this is a boolean value, but for some, say take for example this one, mailbox status, this is not a boolean value, this is a number data type. And that's why you see a suggestion over here, like what should be the number, what are the allowed types for that specific setting. Now this is for one environment. Now take for example, if you're building dev, test, and prod. Now you need to copy the exact like to like setting from dev to say test. What you can do, you need to first connect to the environment. Okay, so in order to connect to the environment, you need to click on this to database over here. So click on connect to secondary environment, then you can connect to the secondary environment. Now for me, the first environment is Girish dev and second is Girish prod. I'm already connected to Girish dev, I'll connect to Girish prod. Now that's my secondary environment. Now if I want to replicate from dev to prod, then what I can do is whatever setting is available for dev. So take for example, let me say if is archival enabled, if it is set to false, then what I can do, I can uh, set is archival to say false in the dev, and I can make Girish prod as false as well, and then I can commit to either Giri prod or commit to Girish dev, or I can copy from one environment to another. So this button copy will take the as it is setting from one environment. So if you see here, if I clicked on it, it says copy org setting from Girish dev to Girish prod. I'm not going to do that, but then there is a possibility that you can also uh, replicate the setting from dev to prod or dev to whatever environment you desire. So that's it, folks. This is how you basically use this tool to set up configuration, organizational settings, or database related settings for a specific environment. Uh, and you can even replicate the settings from one environment to another environment. Thanks for watching.